What happens when your worst fear becomes your reality? Hi, I'm Brent Cassidy. Welcome to the Nightmare Success In and Out podcast, where we explore how to overcome your fears and nightmares and set yourself free. We're going to be exploring this topic with guys I was in Leavenworth with and others who survived their own nightmare. These stories can be inspiring, sometimes sad. There's some humor, but hopefully you can come away with a nugget of something that'll help you knock down some of the prisons you built up in your own mind. All right, Nightmare Success In and Out listeners, we are back. And this is where you guys come for what happens when your worst fear becomes your reality. How do you adapt, survive, overcome, break free? So I've got a great guest here today. And in fact, I had Rick Gray on a few episodes ago for those playing the board game. And this is his partner in Constructing Futures. And if you remember, they are guys that are taking guys and giving them the opportunity to work on renovating houses and really giving and learning a trade, all guys out of prison. And Mike has a really interesting story of car chases, on the run, finally getting, into a 7-year prison sentence. And then he's been out for 10 years. He's doing great stuff. So I can't wait to get into that. But first, I want to get into our sponsor for the show, Auto Plaza Direct. I actually got to do some business with Auto Plaza Direct. I guess it was last week, 2 weeks ago. And Don Davis, he actually got me what I was looking for. I didn't think the thing could get done, but he got it done. I think in the way that only he can. So I was really happy with that. So who likes going and spending a couple of weekends walking lots, looking for a car, then you find it and you got to spend 4 or 5 hours in the dealership to buy a car? Well, it's kind of like going to a trip to the dentist. I don't think anybody likes that, but there's a better way. Take away all your pain and hassle of getting a car. It's called Auto Plaza Direct. They are your personal car concierge. Just tell them the car you want, what you can pay, and they'll go find that car for you. They'll negotiate your best price, and they'll deliver that car to you. They also offer you warranties and financing. It's full service. Go to autoplazadirect.com to get started with your personal car concierge. The new hassle-free way, the car buying experience you deserve. Auto Plaza Direct. Tell them Brent from Nightmare Success sent you. And, if anybody likes just a piece of something out of this show, share it. That's a big deal. Makes it to where the show keeps going on. All right. Mike Flaherty, welcome. Thanks for coming over here today.
Thanks for having me, Brent.
So, Mike, we were just talking about, you've got a really interesting story of all the different things you've been through. Can you take us back a little bit? Because we were just talking about your family and your siblings and that. What was life like for you as a kid growing up here? I assume it was St. Louis. Is that right?
Yeah, I grew up St. Louis. Pretty normal childhood. I got older sister, older brother, a twin sister. We were all pretty tight growing up. My father was kind of in and out. He was an alcoholic. At times, he was kind of abusive, but my mom kind of held the whole family together. She was kind of the glue of the family. And
how was that for you, though, as a kid with that type of environment, with your dad kind of being in and out, kind of being abusive? Was it something where the kids kind of all banded together? Was it like, how did that affect you growing up?
Yeah, my dad was kind of hard. He was harder on me than the rest of my siblings.
Yeah.
My twin sister and I were the youngest.
Okay.
So my dad had high hopes for me. I was pretty good at sports. So he kind of pushed me.
What did you like to play in sports?
I played baseball, basketball, football.
Did it all.
Did it all.
Yeah.
Played golf, tennis, you name it.
Anything that you could get. Okay.
My dad coached some of my little league teams. But it was always a crapshoot. I mean, you didn't know how much he was going to have to drink.
Yeah.
You
didn't know which guy was going to show up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a time.
That's a lot of pressure as a kid.
Absolutely. There was a time I was 11 or 12 in a little league baseball game, and I struck out 3 times, and my dad actually pulled me off the field in the middle of the game. So yeah, there was
I'm gonna change the microphone.
okay. Yeah, so yeah, he pulled me off the field in the middle of the game in front of all the parents and all the other coaches, teams. It was pretty embarrassing. So yeah, my dad.
What was your mom's reaction to all that kind of stuff?
My mom was, I think she was just kind of subservient to my dad.
Yeah.
She was, from a little old school.
Yeah.
They got married when they were 18.
Yeah, so they were young.
And my mom never worked. But she took care of the house and the kids.
Yeah.
It was kind of her role. So she tried to be the peacemaker.
Yeah.
So.
Well, as you got older, Mike, getting into your high school years, did things change, or did they all kind of stay the same type of cycle?
It changed when I got bigger.
Yeah.
Stronger.
Yeah.
My dad pushed me around a lot when I was growing up. He was kind of abusive physically, verbally. And I think when I hit about 16, I was playing sports, working out every day. I just had enough. And me and the old man kind of went out in the front yard, and I said, all right, let's go. It's go time. And after that, he kind of left me alone.
So things were different after that.
Things changed after that.
That's interesting.
Right.
It's like I can't have my way this way with him. He's too big.
Exactly. So I stood up for myself, and I never, I was never able to.
How'd that feel?
It felt pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
And you were 16 at the time.
16.
Yeah. So you get out of high school. What do you do after that?
I went to college.
Yeah.
And that was that's kind of when I got wild.
Okay, that was your wild times. This is the introduction to wild.
Yeah, I mean high school. I experimented.
Yeah.
With drugs and alcohol, but college it got pretty bad.
Where'd you go?
I went to the University of South Florida.
Yeah. So you're down in Florida.
Yeah, and lasted there a year, and came back to Southwest Missouri State, which is now Missouri State.
Yeah. My old man went there. He played basketball there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now, so I bounced around. I didn't take school very serious, but, I was more into the extracurricular.
Which a lot of kids are. Yeah, not unusual.
Was going on. And that's when I started to get in trouble. I got my first DWI as a freshman in college.
That can be a game changer, too, because there's, a lot of kids at that time are just lucky they didn't get caught in that type of deal. But a DWI when you're that young is very, it's serious.
Yeah, it was for my first taste of jail.
Yeah.
It got my attention for a little while.
Scared you?
Scared me.
Yeah.
At first, and until the heat kind of, blew over. Got slapped on the wrist. It was my first offense. And then, I kind of forgot about it quickly.
So, where did you go from? You did you do all 4 years or 3 years there at Southwest Missouri?
Yeah, and then I did the 2 years, and then I came back and finished up at Mizzou.
Oh, you finished up at Mizzou. Okay, yes. So you did a little bit of you did a little jumping around here. Okay, right. Well, Mizzou's my place.
Okay.
For those down in Costa Rica, you have no idea what we're talking about. Maybe you know of South Florida, but not Missouri State or Mizzou. We love our listeners in Costa Rica. So you finish up at Mizzou.
Yeah.
So where does Mike go from there?
I got a job with a home builder.
Okay.
Here in
kind of explains this constructing futures thing a little bit.
Yeah, I actually wasn't swinging the hammer back then. I was selling houses.
Okay.
So I got a job with a company called Rowles Homes.
Greg Rawls?
No, Larry.
Okay.
The older Rowles.
Yeah.
Worked for those guys for a while. Then I joined up with a company called Mayer Homes.
Yeah.
And I was there a long time.
With Randy Mayer? Is that
Randy?
Yeah.
Yep.
I know.
And Dick. Yeah. Randy and Dick. And those were some wild days, my work was good. I was successful. I made really good money. But
and you would have been pretty young, right?
Yeah, I was in my early 20s.
And you were having success.
Yeah.
In the real estate world.
Yeah.
Construction.
The new homes were booming.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a few developments I went to where, you just basically taking orders.
This would have been in the 90s?
This is late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So finished up. My tenure at Mayor Homes came to an end. Then I worked for several different developers. A company called Highland Homes, which is no longer around. But yeah, I was mainly in real estate. That was what I did: project management, real estate sales, construction.
So were you living a normal life, Mike, or were you walking the wild side at night and going to work in the daytime? What was your world like?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it normal. I love to partake in the nightlife. Some days I don't know how I went to work.
And you're making money, so it was probably easy to partake in the nightlife.
Yeah, the money was plentiful, and trips to Vegas, weekend getaways to Miami, and going out all the time, way too much. I hate to admit it, but some nights I wouldn't go to sleep.
Yeah.
I go straight to work. Come home for a quick shower, and I was living that kind of lifestyle.
So did you feel like that you had, because you were dabbling in a lot of different things, drinking and drugs, did you feel like that it was just normal party stuff, or did you think possibly I have an issue?
In the beginning, I thought it was just fun. That's what everybody does.
Yeah.
But it became a problem because I continued to get into trouble.
Yeah. So what kind of trouble were you getting into?
I had a few more DWIs, in that time period.
Yeah.
I got caught with drugs, drug possession. There was a stretch of time in my adult life, in my 20s, all the way up to, early 30s, until I got incarcerated. I was on probation or parole for 10 plus years. Yeah.
Just consistently going through.
Right. And I was making enough money to afford, good attorneys. And,
yeah.
I used Travis Noble and
yeah.
Scott Rosenblum.
Yeah.
I was able to stay out of jail.
Uh-huh.
So I think I was probably living in denial.
Thinking that, if I get caught, I can survive this and get to the next step, and it won't be that big a deal. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, walk me through, because you were describing for me that when your big nightmare happened, it was quite a deal. Like,
oh yeah.
Can you walk us through that?
Well, I went out. It was a Friday night, and I went out with my girlfriend at the time and a couple other friends. It was like any other night. I was on the run, so I was kind of low key.
Meaning on the run that you had a warrant out for
I
you?
had a felony warrant out.
Okay.
For my arrest.
They were looking for you.
They were looking for me, but they couldn't find me.
Uh-huh.
For probably over 7-8 months.
That's quite a while.
Yeah, it was. I was always turning my back. Always looking. I'd see a cop, I would freeze. It was not a very
It doesn't
good way
sound
to
like
live.
a good way to live for 7 or 8 months on the run.
It was not. So when I got caught, it was kind of a sense of relief, but then that's when the journey started. So I left the house, like any other night. We're out at the clubs, bars. It's probably 2:00 in the morning. I'm heading down Manchester Road, and someone in the back seat, a friend, threw out a bottle, and I saw the sirens. Saw the lights, heard the sirens, and I told everybody in the car, you better buckle up, I'm not stopping.
Onto a car chase.
I knew if I stopped, I was going to jail, So I was going to do everything in my power to not go to jail that night, and I did. I took them on a 3 or 4 mile through subdivisions, going through people's yards. I was loaded, very intoxicated. I was high on cocaine, alcohol.
You're lucky you didn't die. Everybody else didn't die in the car.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. So I got to the point where I got to the end of this subdivision, and I was out of real estate. So I jumped out of the car and took off. I'm running. I remember I'm running down a hill, and I slid. I had like loafers on. It was,
Yeah.
the grass was wet.
Not built for running.
No.
No.
So I jump up, and there's a cop right there,
Oh boy.
right in my face. And I turn around, and I hit him with a forearm. And by that point, I knew I made a
Huge
big
mistake.
mistake.
Yeah.
And there was 2 or 3 other police officers on the scene by then, and I just remember getting tased and beaten,
For a while.
for a while. Yeah.
What's a tase feel like?
It feels like the worst electric shock of your life.
And you're just basically, did you just fall down when you get paralyzed or when you get tasered? I mean, I've always seen it, and it looks like, it looks horrible.
I think I was so loaded.
You didn't even.
It took 2 or 3 times,
Yeah.
but that it hurt.
Yeah.
And it froze me.
Mm-hmm.
But I pulled the darts out of the first one, and then I got hit a couple more times and went down like a sack of potatoes.
Wow. So even though that you were pretty loaded, they handcuff you, they've beaten you, you've been on a car chase. I'm sure your adrenaline was like on, 1,000 plus. When you get put in the back of that car, what's running through your mind?
That kind of my life was over.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to be gone forever.
Yeah.
That's the initial thought, because I knew I had some serious charges. So they take me in, and I spent the night. They took me in St. Louis County. I spent the night in jail, woke up the next morning. Then the nightmare really started. I knew I was stuck. No bond, not even a chance to get out. Like I said, I was on felony probation.
Mm-hmm.
They revoked my probation when they heard about the incident.
Right.
So I knew I wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah. No bond. So you, what are your next steps on this? Because I'm thinking that you were familiar with attorneys, so you get locked in with an attorney and say, "Hey, I've got some really bad news."
Yeah, I had to call an attorney. Travis came up, and he said, "Boy, you screwed up," and it's pretty scary when an
attorney tells you that. Yeah.
Yeah, says you're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
He said you're going to have to do some time, and I kind of knew that, but I think the first offer, the charges were, they charged me with 6 or 7 felonies,
Mm-hmm.
and I already been convicted of 3 other felonies.
Right.
So yeah, I think the first amount of charges equaled like 35 years.
Wow.
He came to see me. He's like, yeah. He said they offered 35.
That's a lot.
35.
And how old would you have been at that time?
I was
when you're offering you 35 years.
I was 30. I was actually, let's see here.
Around 30 years old.
I've been out for 10 years, so I was around 30. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you swallow that, and so I guess did you do a plea bargain and just continue to do?
Yeah.
Bargaining of with Travis and the prosecutor?
Yeah, we went back and forth. I was in St. Louis County for 9 months.
That's a long time.
Yeah, so I probably went to court 30 times.
And your parents and your siblings, what's going on the outside of this?
Yeah, they were sick.
Yeah,
disappointed. They didn't want to have much to do with me.
Yeah,
to be honest with you, they were just done because I was constantly getting in trouble and I didn't learn.
Right. It just continued on, and then now this is the big one.
Yeah, this was the big one. If you would have told me, me going out that night,
that you would have,
I wouldn't return for 5+ years.
Yeah,
I would have said you're crazy.
So when it gets down to sentencing, do you know what you're getting?
He was working with the prosecutor. That's why I kept going to court.
Yeah.
He's like, we got to catch him on the right day, So it was like any other court date. I'm shackled up, sitting there in the bullpen, and he comes over. He goes, hey, I got 7 years times 5. He said, all run concurrent. He said, your first time down, going to prison, you'll only do 20%.
Mm-hmm.
He said, we need to take this today.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay. And so I was sentenced to 7 years times 5 with the 5 felony charges.
Well, I want to go back a little bit with that 9 months in county jail. What was your world like? How did you survive the day-to-day of county?
County was pretty rough because you can't go outside.
Yeah.
Limited phone privileges. I read a lot of books, did a lot of push-ups.
Yeah.
Anything to keep. I volunteered for work.
Yeah.
Inside, I was sweeping, mopping floors just to try to stay busy.
Right.
So
violence.
Yeah, there was quite a few violent acts that I've seen in the county. I got into it once in the county. Got thrown in the hole for a fight. Guy trying to steal something from me, and you can't let that happen. So,
no, it's we've talked about this a lot on this show. Is that the county jail is in the system of being locked up? It's the bottom of the barrel.
It was the worst, and
it's. I think it's hard to explain because I had 6 days, and they were the longest 6 days. And I had this in the middle of I had been at Leavenworth for a year and a half, and our civil trial started, and I got brought back, and I was out at Warrenton, and so I had been in prison first, and right. I was every day I was like, I can't wait to get back to Leavenworth prison. If that's not a crazy statement, but it was so different, and so transitory, and you had all types, and for people in there for DWI, and somebody might have killed somebody, and it's just you never know, what's going to happen around the corner, the next minute.
I was in the wing in county with all the people looking at serious
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
15 years plus. Murderers, rapists, really hardcore.
When you said 7 plus 5, what does that mean?
So I got 5 sentences. Each case was 7 years.
Okay.
So 5 charges.
Right.
7 years on each charge. And they ran those
concurrently.
So the 7 years would take care of all 5.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you're living with that, and I was thinking when you take off from the county jail, you're taking a bus somewhere, right?
Yeah, I took a bus right to Diagnostic
in
Bonne Terre, Missouri.
What was that like?
That was like county. It was lockdown 22 hours a day because you're getting processed.
Mm-hmm.
When I got to a prison yard, I felt like a freedom.
Sure. Well, you probably hadn't been outside for a while.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you're free to move.
Yeah.
Went to Moberly Correctional Center, and they had a weight room, handball courts, basketball courts. The first day in Moberly, though, I got into a fight.
How'd that go?
Actually, my second day there.
Okay.
I went to the canteen.
Because the interesting thing about this is, Mike, you didn't go in just cold to prison. You went to county jail for 9 or 10 months. So you, as horrible as that is, you had been conditioned a little bit to know what kind of you're walking into.
Yeah,
a little bit.
A little bit. With county, you don't interact too much with people. But, I mean, prison, you have to.
You're living there. That's your neighborhood.
It's your home.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the second day I went to the canteen, I loaded up. I'm like, I'm going to make this as comfortable as I can. I came back with a big old sack of groceries, a TV, all the
little. The new guy.
Yeah, the little things. So I was a target.
Yeah.
Walking into the housing unit. And I'll never forget, there was 4 or 5 guys playing cards at the little table in the day room.
So your housing unit, was it just a big open area, bunk beds, locker, your chair?
Individual cells.
Okay.
With a top and a bottom.
Okay.
Row.
Yeah.
With doors.
So it's two man cell.
Yeah, two-man cell.
Okay.
So yeah, I come back from the canteen, and the first I walk in the door, I'm going up to the top walk, and this guy they called Fat Joe, he yells, "Hey, new guy, I'll be up to get your stuff here in a minute."
And you didn't think you'd bought that for him?
No. I'm like, here we go. So I go in, talk to my cellie. He's like, yeah, he's come try to take
Fat Joe wants your stuff.
Yeah, he's like, he takes everybody's stuff.
That's why he's fat.
Yeah. So, yeah, he was very large.
Yeah.
So yeah, about 20 minutes later, I'm standing on the top walk, and I see him coming.
Mm-hmm.
So, the cellie that I had was an older guy. He'd done 20 plus years. So he's like, look, he goes, put all your stuff under your bunk.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be going to the hole.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, man, I don't want to go to the hole.
Right.
I
No.
just got here.
Yeah, I don't like the hole.
I've been locked up.
Right.
Counties like the hole.
Mm-hmm.
Diagnostic is like the hole.
Yeah.
He's like, well, if you don't fight him, then you're going to be a target.
You're going to be that guy. Yeah.
So, he said, you better boot up. So he came up to my door. I opened the door, and, just first thing, just blasted him. And I don't know, it just was like a blur. I jumped on top of him. Next thing I know, the CERT team's, rushing in, macing me, and handcuffing me, taking me to the hole. So that's how I started. But, after that.
How long did they put you in the hole?
7 days, which wasn't.
That's quite an entry into prison.
Yeah, it wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
But, it was no fun.
Was your stuff there when you got back?
Yeah.
Okay.
They took the stuff to the property room, and when I got out, I got all my stuff.
That's good.
My cellie was cool.
Right. And you weren't going to be that guy that they take stuff from, which, in a primitive world, living in that, you have to make sure that you aren't taken advantage of. And it's that primitive.
Well, I was kind of freaking out after the fight because I hadn't seen the parole board yet.
Yeah.
And, when you see the parole board, they give you a date.
Mm-hmm.
This whole time I'm thinking I'm doing 20%.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm counting my months. I'm like, well.
It's your good time and everything else.
Counting time.
Yeah.
I said, well, I'll be out of here in 8 months. That's what I thought. But I'm like, oh, no, now I got a number 2 assault on my prison record, and that's not good. But after I got out of the hole, I had no issues.
Yeah.
Everybody left me alone.
What about Fat Joe? How was he after that?
I never saw him again.
Never saw him again?
Never saw him.
This wasn't an issue.
No, never saw him.
So you had a good cellie.
Yeah, had a good cellie.
He kind of introduced you to the world.
Yeah, he did. He looked out for me.
So living in that world, you're not going to be there for a week, a month. It's just not a bad camp. You can't get out summer camp and you get to go home. You're going to be there for years. What were you thinking? Like, what was going through your head? What am I going to do for the next whatever?
Well, my life changed actually when I saw the parole board.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm thinking, by then, I was still in Moberly. When I saw the parole board, I pretty much had enough time to satisfy
to
my
be
minimum.
done with that 20%.
Correct.
Okay.
That was my minimum mandatory.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking I'm going to get an immediate out date.
Yeah.
So I'll never forget this. 6 weeks later, I'm sitting in my cell, and I get mail, Department of Probation and Parole. So I'm sitting on my bunk, and I opened it up, and it said, you're scheduled to be released from confinement in 2013.
And it was not
early 2010 at that time.
Oh.
So I got all 2010, 11, 12, and most of 13. That's 4 more years.
4 years.
And I lost it.
Yeah.
They CR'd me, basically. That's a conditional release, 66%.
Yeah. Did that really because of the fight? Or did they just take everything into account and say, we're just going to kind of throw the book at him and have him stay in there for a while?
They said, all the multiple felonies I had, and they said, you should have been locked up a long time ago.
We're going to make it up right here.
Right. They said, you're a danger to society. And looking back, I probably agree with them.
Yeah.
I didn't like to hear it at the time.
No.
But
how'd you take that?
I shut down.
Yeah.
Then
prison's a bad place to shut down too.
Yeah. I got angry.
Yeah.
I started doing all kinds of stuff. I was running a sports ticket, gambling, just trying to keep my mind occupied.
Becoming part of the prison world environment.
I'm going to be here for 4+ years, so I better settle in and do something.
Did you have a prison job?
I did. I worked in the kitchen at that particular camp.
So as you go along and getting into this world, you're doing things, do things change for you in any way?
Things changed. I guess it was about 2 years prior to my release. I'll never forget this. I always believed in God.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I was growing up, I was raised Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I walked away from God, but I started reading the Bible. I was in the hole under investigation. Okay, I was accused of moving some drugs on the institution,
Mm-hmm.
which this time I actually was not good for.
Yeah,
But they don't care.
right.
So I was in the hole for 4 or 5 months.
It's a long time.
Yeah, and it was Christmas Eve, and I got some mail, you know, from my family, and I seen all my nieces and nephews growing up, and pictures. And
Now, had you been in contact and visits and stuff along this time period with them?
my brothers and sisters,
Because you have a twin sister.
yeah,
Yeah.
she came to see me, I think twice.
Yeah,
My mom came to see me quite a few times.
yeah.
But that was my older sister and older brother were pretty upset with me.
Just kind of shut the book on you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. So it was Christmas Eve, and you know I'm reading this mail, and something came over me, I cried out to God. I don't want to live like this anymore. You know, God, please help me through this. You know, I'll do my part. And that was kind of a different type of prayer that I usually prayed for. Get me out of this, God. But this time I was kind of willing to do.
I'll do what I need to do.
Right.
I'll take on my responsibility.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. That's powerful. And do you think it was seeing all those family pictures and seeing people growing up and thinking, I'm not part of that?
Yeah, I felt like a failure.
Yeah.
I felt like that I was missing life.
I think it's always fascinating when people hit a rock bottom moment because I had a rock bottom moment too. And I think you got one or two ways to go. You go all the way down and never come back, or that becomes a new beginning for you. And it's always, I think, I don't know what that is, because there's plenty of people that hit a rock bottom moment and they never come back. And there's a whole thing of books being written and people talking about their stories of hitting a rock bottom moment, and it lights a fire to change. But it sounds like you kind of just reached the depths of, I don't like where I'm at. I'm tired of myself.
Right.
I don't like this anymore. I've done this up to this point, and I'm not good with it.
Yeah, it just, like you said, it was rock bottom. You know, I looked at myself in the mirror.
Yeah.
I just hated myself. I'm like, this is what my life has come to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm sitting here on Christmas.
Right. In prison.
In the hole.
In the hole.
And I'm looking at family photos.
Yeah.
You know, I should be part of this.
Right. So that happens. How do you start taking steps that are different than the steps you'd taken?
Well, when I was released out of the hole, you know, I got back in, and I actually signed up for treatment on my own.
Okay.
Department of Corrections.
Yeah.
Treatment and work release.
Okay.
So, and I just stopped doing everything I was doing. I stopped associating with all the people in there that were no good.
Yeah.
You know, that were.
What'd they think?
I mean, they didn't.
They just said,
whatever.
Flaherty's doing his thing.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, Flaherty's cool. You know, let him be.
Yeah.
So I got transferred shortly there afterwards, and I finally made it to a work release camp, which I worked for MoDOT for approximately a year.
Which would be out on the highways and doing work on the outside.
I was on the tree crew.
Yeah.
And it was down in southeast Missouri.
Yeah.
So they would take us out, and we'd cut trees down on the sides of the highways.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know that goes on.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when you watch the movie Shawshank Redemption, you know, the warden's got the guys out doing all the stuff and whatever. They're like, it's just a movie. No, that actually goes on.
Yeah, that happens.
That's a real deal. And they're paying these guys, you know, $2 or $3 a day, and they're doing real work that they'd be paying a union person to do, you know, doing that stuff. How did that feel, being out and doing that on MoDOT?
It felt like freedom.
Yeah.
Until you went back to the institution.
You go back to the prison.
And got strip searched, and then reality
does set in.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. It's the weirdest feeling. I had the same thing. I had a job eventually after a year and a half being in that I would go and work and then come back. And it was like, I'm going back to prison and then
Right.
I get to leave tomorrow, but I go back to prison at night. It's very strange.
It was. I mean, MoDOT worked us too.
Yeah,
I mean, $9 a day. They got
got a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, middle of summer, you're in full chaps.
Yeah.
Long sleeves. I mean, you're hanging over a truck.
yeah.
With
So when you went, Mike, to that, you went from one prison to the other prison, because it's never any good to travel when you're in prison, but because you kind of get set up. Was it good for you to move? Was it good for you to get to another place and this even more of a fresh start for you?
Yeah, I think it was good. The places I was in, I was ready to go.
Yeah.
The people, especially after I explained that when I started, putting my faith back into God,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the people
Yeah.
didn't have the luster they had before.
Yeah.
So I was glad. I mean, I was like a blessing going to work release.
And the guys in work release, so did you make friendships there? And
Yeah.
was it, yeah.
Yeah, I made several friendships in the work release, and guys that I remained in contact with when I was released.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's
for a short time.
right. Well, then your life gets going, and you think, these guys that you're with every day, all day, every day, you think you're going to be with them for life, and then you get back. So you get through this work release, and so you're thinking about, you're getting close to the door of freedom. What do you start thinking?
Well, I mean, when I got through with the work release, I got picked up and taken to Maryville Treatment Center.
Okay.
Which is all the way up, like in almost to the Iowa,
Yeah,
Nebraska
top of Missouri
border. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it was pretty intense.
What was that like?
The bus ride was a nightmare.
I'm sure.
I mean, there was a layover in Jeff City for hours. I mean, you're shackled the whole time.
Yeah.
Your wrists are purple.
Yeah.
They put a little box on your feet. I mean, it was miserable.
Mm.
I mean, it was like this trip to Maryville is never going to end.
Yeah.
But once I got up to Maryville, it was a different type of treatment too. It was kind of an accountability.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could walk us through that, because I've heard people talk, but I'm not sure if I really know what that's like. The treatment part of how they do it.
It was more of a behavior modification.
Yeah.
Which I wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
I was always able to.
Like rational thinking, behavior models, that type of thing.
Criminal thinking.
Yes. Yeah.
They wake you up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and the rest of the day you cannot lay on your bunk.
Yeah, it's like a cult.
You have to make your bunk.
Yeah. They have a program in the federal system called RDAP, where you have a 9-month program that's much like that, and you go through workbooks and all the rational thinking and behavior. But I don't actually think it's bad. I think actually that thinking and that mind modeling of being aware of how you do things and how you think probably should be taught in school.
Yeah, I mean they went pretty far. They would have they had families, so there was a chain.
Mm-hmm.
There was family president all the way down to secretary. There was a structure.
Yeah,
that's what they were trying to do: build structure.
Mm-hmm. Structure, accountability, responsibility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We were required to tell to tell on people.
Yeah, nobody likes that because
responsible telling. They called it.
Yeah, you don't like that. They called them pull-ups in RDAP, and
that's what it was.
And nobody likes that because snitching is like the very bottom rung of what people think in prison. But if you're in this program, you have no choice.
Yeah, I mean, you had to do it.
Yeah,
I got pulled up for not snitching.
Right.
And I got put in front of the family, and everybody yelled at me, and said I was a piece of crap.
Get a little hazing.
Oh yeah, I mean it was hard to get used to, but there was a lot of one-on-one counseling, which was good. That part of it, plenty of AA, NA.
Yeah.
So I took advantage of all that.
How long was the program?
6 months.
So you were in there for 6 months. Yeah. So do you go? How does that work? So when you get done with the program, are you released?
Yeah, originally I thought I would get a little bit of play on my out date.
Yeah.
But I did the same amount of time.
No matter what.
Right.
So what was, now that you've gone through this program, you kind of got a structure. And you've kind of gone through some hazing, but they've probably put structure in your life of what were you thinking as far as stepping out into society again?
I mean, I was ready to just get out of prison.
Yeah.
I was ready to see, my friends, family. Yeah.
What'd you step out to? What was like, who picked you up and then where'd you go?
My aunt actually took me in.
Okay.
My family the trust was.
Yeah, they were still trying to build that back, bridge that over. Yeah.
Right. The night I got released at 1 o'clock in the morning in Maryville.
That's odd.
I live in St.
1
Louis.
o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, they put me on a bus and took me to KCI.
Yeah.
The airport.
Flew back to St. Louis?
Flew back to St. Louis. Back then, I think the plane ticket was $95.
Yeah.
But I was in the airport all night long.
That had to be weird.
That was wild. I got a cup of Starbucks coffee, and I mean, it was like, this is freedom. I mean, I was in the airport.
Because you kind of get sensory overload, right?
Yeah, it was everything was moving fast. I mean, only 5 years being gone.
Yeah.
A lot of things had changed.
What do you think was the biggest change from you going in and coming out?
Just the technology.
Yeah.
For one.
Yeah.
And just I guess I didn't remember how fast things move because in prison things move so slow.
It's like slow motion.
Yeah. I mean, they're on their
Literally.
own time. Exactly.
And everything's by a structured time limit.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing we had to do in prison is go to our job.
Yeah, and be counted.
And be counted. Stand up for count, then you can go back to sleep.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So I got back to St. Louis, and shockingly, my sister, my twin, my older sister, and my brother, my aunt, and my mom greeted me when I got off the plane. So that was a really good feeling.
I bet it was. So your aunt takes you, which is a huge thing, because you and I were talking about this before we even started the interview. I mean, having somebody to come out to and have support is so huge. I mean, the people that don't have that, I don't know how they make it without somebody helping them, helping him, because it's so hard to get back into the world. So how did you get back into the world?
When I got out, the first couple of weeks, I was kind of scared.
Yeah.
People were calling. They found out I got the same cell phone number, which probably was a mistake.
All the same people could call, yeah.
Oh, yeah. The word got out.
Yeah.
St. Louis, small.
Smallest big town.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are people blowing me up. What are you doing, Flaherty? Let's go. I got a package for you.
Yeah.
A little welcome home packet. I'm like, I don't want anything.
Yeah.
I'm good. So it was funny because I met Rick, and that's when things started to change, because I was kind of like weighing out what I wanted to do. Do I want to go back into real estate?
Sure.
Do I want to do some kind of sale? I didn't know what I was going to do.
Yeah.
I didn't have a plan for like employment.
Right.
So my sister has a ministry where she helps. She was doing a Hispanic outreach in Chesterfield.
Yeah.
They owned some trailers, and Rick actually volunteered some of his services to her, and they got to talking, and he gave Terry, my sister, his business card.
Okay.
And she's like, constructing futures, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And he goes, I help guys that are coming out of prison. She goes, really? He goes, my brother just got out 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so Rick got excited immediately. He's like, well, what's he doing? She's like, well, he's trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so.
Is Terry your twin sister?
That's my oldest
sister. Got it.
Yeah. So he's like, here's my number, have him call me. And so, I waited a couple days. I was like, do I really want to call this guy?
Yeah.
So, I called him, and we started talking. And I realized he liked to play golf.
Yeah.
I'm a diehard golfer.
Yeah.
The guys that I used to play golf with, I wasn't playing with anymore.
Right.
Because there was a lot of
extracurricular after that. Yeah.
Yeah, so
or during it.
And so, Rick and I played golf, and he said, are you in AA? I said, yeah, I went to a lot of AA meetings.
Yeah.
He said, do you have a sponsor? I said, no. So
did he become your sponsor?
He became my sponsor.
I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah, he became my sponsor. And shortly thereafter, I started to work for him. You know, we became friends. I
Yeah.
mean, we played golf. He was my sponsor, my boss.
Yeah.
The work, when I was, the first year I was out of prison was pretty difficult. You know, I didn't have a driver's license, didn't have a vehicle, and Rick was doing houses up in North County.
Yeah.
And my aunt, you know, I was staying with in Kirkwood. So I would have to take the bus, and Rick wanted me to, one of his sayings was, I want you to chop the wood before you can feel the heat.
Do the work.
Because he could have picked me up. I mean, he was coming past me, but he's like, I want you to take the bus. I want you to learn some humility. Yeah. And he goes like, if you can prove that for a while, we'll work out, you know, other things. So, I mean, it was 2.5 hours one way. You know,
all the stops.
Metrolink trains, multiple buses. I mean, yeah. And that was every day, 2.5 hours there, 2.5 hours home.
But you stayed committed to it.
I did, because I did not want to go back to prison.
Yeah.
And I looked at Rick as like, this guy's been out of prison for 25 years. Whatever he's doing is probably working. Yeah. You know, so I should probably listen. I need to try something different. My way clearly didn't work.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's a great thing about mentors, though, is, you know, if you find somebody that's getting it right and you know that's working for them, then, it, you know, you can just plug it in and implement it because you already know that it's working for him. And if you stay on that track, then it can work.
Yeah, I was like, I'm just going to do everything he
suggests.
Yeah,
I'm going to follow that lead.
Yeah, and Rick really cared.
Yeah.
I mean, I could tell he had a passion for helping guys. So, yeah, I mean, but, you know, the first year was rough, but my life continued. After the first year, I started to get better.
Yeah.
You know, started to make more money, and eventually I got, you know, a vehicle.
Which I bet felt such like a relief of a big deal.
I'm like, now I know why Rick insisted I take that bus and all those trains.
Yeah.
I mean, I can remember one day specifically when I'm standing at the bus stop, you know, walking down from the house we were working on, and it's cold, it's pouring down rain. Rick drives past me and waves.
Oh, man. That is tough love.
He told me. He said, that broke my heart to do that.
Oh, man. Well, I think what you guys are doing is, you know, I get one of the great things about doing this show is I get so many different opportunities to find people that are doing really good things. And Constructing Futures, you know, if we had something like that in every city, you know, you guys are taking, in a lot of cases, blighted homes and fixing them up with people who need an opportunity, like a real opportunity. You're teaching them a trade. And it improves the look of the places wherever you are. So it's a fantastic idea. And you know, I told Rick this when he was on, talking about stuff. You know, everybody's got great ideas, but the fact that you guys are taking action with it, and it's not easy. I mean, you know the people you're working with, you don't know if they're committed. Some of them aren't. Right. But, you know, the wins that you get off the ones that you're helping, I mean, it could change their life.
Yeah, we've had several that have had success that have moved on. We had a guy that became an electrician.
Yeah.
Another guy that went to work for UPS. You know, our main thing is, the constructions, we have to do construction.
Yeah.
You know, we have to pay the bills.
Right.
But we're more in it for the mentoring.
Exactly.
You know?
Mentoring them to see, just as Rick did with you.
Yeah, I mean, now I do the same thing.
Exactly.
It's pretty cool to be able to give back. And that's what, you know, a lot of the big reason I've stayed sober.
Yeah, because that fills you up.
Exactly.
That becomes your passion. I so get that. I mean, it makes sense to me. If you were thinking, Mike, about all this stuff that you've been through, because I mean, you went through some stuff.
Yeah.
like, what do you think? Because I know faith is a big deal for you and family and that. But what would be the thing to our listeners out that you would impart to them about your journey? What you've sent out to them?
I would probably tell them that no matter how hard or how uphill of a battle you're facing, that God, if you trust and you actually believe in your heart and your mind, he'll see you through anything.
You make it.
Yeah. I mean, last summer, my 15-year-old niece got killed in a boating accident. You know, a freak thing at Table Rock Lake. My twin sister's little baby.
Yeah.
You know, and
it's horrible.
Me and that little girl were so close. And I mean, if it weren't for my faith, and
that would have been the thing that would have pushed you.
That could have sent me right back.
Yeah.
You know, on a downward spiral. But you know, surround yourself with good people.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the best decision I made.
Yeah.
It's going to work for Rick.
Amazing how that happened. Your sister meets Rick. He's helping her out. He starts talking about what he's doing, and then she's like, "Oh, hey, you need to talk to my brother."
I mean, things worked out for me when I was actually obedient.
Yeah.
You know, to God and faithful.
Yeah.
You know? My way.
Well,
got me in
you went a long ways with your way, though.
It worked. I thought it worked.
Well, I think it's a great story, and you know what I think's great about the story is that you willed yourself to find a better way. You got tired of what you were doing, and you made it work. And that's a lot about what this show's about. Is that, you know, don't give up on yourself. You know that you can will yourself through, and it's not easy. You know, the thing of it is, if you step out of your comfort zone and get into that weird stuff that makes you feel nervous and fearful and scary and all that, that's not easy, but you'll find that you can kind of walk through it if you stay with it. Right. And you stayed with it. And that's really cool about your story.
Yeah. I mean, every day I get to, you know, basically, you know, testify to men. And most of these
that need it.
That need it.
Yeah.
Desperately.
Yeah.
So,
and you know what, the thing that, you know, thinking about it, you pretty much earned a diploma on your experience, your journey that you've been through, and you went through basically enough to be a professional through the treatment and everything else that you learned to be able to really give these guys good advice.
Yeah. I mean, I was like them.
Yeah.
So they can.
But that makes it more believable. You're not some professor that's come out and said, "Hey, I've read this book and this is what you guys need to do." You can actually talk the talk. You've walked the walk, and it's so much more believable that way.
Well, I think that's what gave me hope. When I met Rick, and I'm like, man, this guy, he seems to have it all together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for being an ex-con.
Yeah.
You know, and I was just out. I didn't know what direction my life was
Yeah.
going to go. And I mean, he gave me hope.
But you were open to it too. You know, I think that's another tip to give people that are listening is that you also could have been given that name and said, I'm not ready for it. I've just gotten out. I don't know if I'm not ready yet.
Yeah, I'm going to weigh my options.
Yeah, and you could have missed that whole opportunity.
Absolutely.
But you gave him a call, and the rest is history.
Yeah. And what I got out of it is like a best friend.
Yeah. That's why it's a great story.
Yeah, we go to Chiefs games.
Yeah. Play a lot of golf.
Season tickets, yeah, play golf. I never thought when I got out of prison my life would be so good today.
Yeah.
And I would have everything I needed.
Man,
you know?
That's a great way to end it right there. I love that. You would have never thought that it is what it is today, but you walk through it all and you are where you are, and it's the good stuff. You're getting the good stuff back. I love it.
Absolutely.
Folks, for those out there that are looking for a book, I actually wrote one. It's called Nightmare Success. You can pick it up at Barnes & Noble, Amazon. You can go to Amazon. Even they're selling it at Walmart. Leave a review if you got a chance on Spotify, Apple. It just puts the show on steroids. If you just take the time, go to my page, scroll down, and it says write a review. You don't have to say much. Just say something. And go to BrentCassidy.com. And I love going back and forth with people there. Leave me a message if you can. Like I said, share the show. If you got anything out of this, share it with somebody. Maybe it could help them. As I used to say when I was going back and forth with my emails in prison, stay strong. I'll do the same. Nightmare Success in and out. Mike Flaherty, thank you, man. Appreciate your story.
Thanks for having me, Brent.
Talk to you all later.